everyone, welcome back to the channel. Silem here. In today's video I'm going to teach you guys how to make a very simple Ankara top. Very simple, very straightforward. It can be done in as little as 10 minutes depending on your expertise when it comes to sewing, but this is a very beginner friendly tutorial. I've decided to incorporate more beginner friendly tutorials because some of my tutorials are for those in intermediate or advanced level. So it's really important that I carry beginners along because I'm aware that there's some beginners watching my videos. So if you want to learn how to make a simple Ankara top, then definitely keep on watching.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
So I simply folded my fabric in half, and now I'm marking the length of the top that I want. I want the top to be 30 inches long, but I added that 1 inch allowance. And I just went ahead to mark that baseline. That was the first thing I did. Then from that baseline, I went ahead to mark her bust point, which is 11 inches. I also marked her under bust, which is 14 inches. Now the bust point is the distance from the shoulder to the nipple, while the under bust is the distance from the shoulder to under the bust. Now I simply went ahead to extend those lines. I have a detailed tutorial on how I take those measurements, so if you're interested in that, the link will be in the description box down below. Placing the tape back on the fabric, I just marked the hip line, which is 23 inches. So this hip line is the distance from the shoulder to where the hip is. Okay, now for the shoulder, or for that baseline, I divided her shoulder measurements by 2. Now her shoulder measurement is 15 inches, divided that by 2, which gave me 7.5 inches, and then I added 1 inch allowance. Now I divided her bust measurement, which is her bust circumference, by 4. I marked that point on the bust point line, and then I added 2 inches allowance. Now because this is a very simple top, I didn't mark her waist measurement. I went ahead to mark her hip measurement divided by 4 on the hip line, and I also added 2 inches allowance. Now from the baseline, I went ahead to mark the armhole line, which is 8 inches. So from the shoulder to the armhole line is 8 inches, and that's like the regular measurement for most people. But you can always go ahead and measure the distance between your shoulder to your armhole. Now I drew a straight line from that baseline to that armhole line, and now I'm taking the midpoint of that line, and then from that midpoint I drew a curve and connected it to that armhole line, and I also drew a curve to connect the bust and the hip. Okay, hope you guys understand what I've done so far, and I'm just cutting along that line. So this serves as my front piece, a basic bodice, basic simple blouse. Now placing that on my back piece, or on a fabric again to cut my back piece. Now because this top will have no zipper, I didn't leave a zipper allowance for the back piece. I went ahead to just fold it, and then I just placed the front piece on top of it without any zipper allowance. Now I just cut the same outline that I cut for the front, I cut it for the back as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the neckline for both the front and the back. Now the width of my neckline for the front is 3 inches, and the depth of the neckline for the front is also 3 inches. For the back, the width of my neckline is also 3 inches, but the depth of my neckline for the back is 2 inches. Now note that the width of your front and back are always the same. So the width of the neck for your front piece and your back piece are always the same. Okay, now I want this neckline for the front to have a round neck but then a V opening at the end. So what I did was I simply marked 3 inches from that depth I had initially marked. I marked 3 inches, and then I just cut along the fold. Now I want the bottom part, or the side part of this shirt or this top, to be curved, so I just simply marked 5 inches from the bottom, and then I just rounded it out and I just curved it at that bottom. Now to cut my sleeve, I'm just folding my fabric in half, and then the length of my sleeve is 16 inches. I added 1 inch for zipper allowance, which made it 17 inches. Now from that 0 point, I'm just marking 5 inches downwards. Now that 5 inch mark, I just folded my round sleeve measurement. So my round sleeve measurement is the circumference of the fullest part of my arm. I just marked that point and I added 1 inch allowance. Now I also marked the elbow measurement. So since this is a 3/4 sleeve, the elbow measurement is needed. So I marked that elbow circumference at the bottom part of the sleeve, and then I also added 1 inch allowance. Now from that 5-inch mark line, I just drew a curve all the way to the top. Now that 5-inch mark I marked earlier is called the bicep, okay? When you're cutting your sleeve, that part is called the bicep. Now moving on to the sewing machine, I just opened my back piece. Now I'm placing my front piece on top of my back piece, right sides facing. So the front piece is placed on top of the back piece with the right sides facing each other, okay? So as a beginner, it's important that you know that when you're joining, you know, your pieces, you join them right sides facing. Now I'm just sewing the shoulders together with 1/2 inch seam allowance. After joining the shoulders, I'm going ahead to just join the sides as well, and I left about 1 inch allowance. Now from the bottom part, 5 inches from the bottom, I just stacked it at that point. By tacking, I mean that I just sewed to and fro, like I reversed at a spot. So I went to and fro at a spot. That's what tacking means, okay? Now once I did that, I simply turned my top to the right side, and now I'm going ahead to just trim the shoulder. Now her shoulder measurement is 15 inches, so 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. That's what I marked at the midpoint, and then I marked the 0 point at one shoulder, and I marked the 15 mark on the other shoulder. Now after doing that, I added 1/2 inch seam allowance, okay? Very important, you always have to add your seam allowance. Now from that shoulder mark, I'm just marking the depth of the armhole, okay? So the armhole line basically. So from that shoulder, I marked 9 inches for the armhole. Because this is a free top, I told you initially that the armhole line is usually 8 inches for most people, but because this is a free top, I decided to make it 9 inches so it's not tight. It's just a free easy top. Now from that line at the shoulder, or from that mark at the shoulder, I simply drew a curve all the way to the mark I created on the side. That gave me my armhole curve. Now I'm just trimming that on both sides. Make sure that they are equal on both sides, and that's why I folded it, so I ensure that they are equal on both sides. Now once you've trimmed it, you have to go ahead and just trim the front again slightly because it fits better. Now I've gone ahead to weave my sleeve. I just weave the sides. Now I'm going ahead to just fold the bottom part, that's the hem of the sleeve. I'm going ahead to just fold it and then just sew it down so it's nice and neat. I did that for both sleeves. And now I'm just folding the sleeve again, and I'm marking her actual round sleeve measurements. Initially when I marked her round sleeve measurement, I added 1 inch allowance. So now I'm marking her actual round sleeve measurement, and then I'm sewing along that line that I marked all the way from top to bottom. And now I'm turning the sleeve to the right side, and this is what we have. I did this for the other sleeve as well. So this is what we have. Now looking at both pieces, you can see that once I place the sleeve on the top, it fits nicely, okay? So you want the armhole on the top and the sleeve to be equal, all right? So when you sew it, you don't have one being bigger or wider than the other. So I went ahead to place the seam of the sleeve on the side seam of the top, okay? I made sure that the seams are aligned. I placed them together, and then I began to sew from that same line, and I sewed the sleeve to the blouse all the way around, okay? And this is it, guys. I went ahead to fix the first sleeve. I'm also going to go ahead to fix the second sleeve as well. And this is it, guys. I also went ahead to turn in the neckline with a bias. So if you want a video on how to do that, I will be happy to make a tutorial on that. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you in my next one.